Hi, this is Paige DeSorbo from Giggly Squad. How would you like to look 5 years younger? In a clinical study, people that had volume added with Juvederm, Voluma XC, in the cheeks perceived themselves as looking 5 years younger at 6 months after treatment. Look younger, feel like you, add volume for lift and contour in the cheeks with Juvederm, Voluma XC, and reverse signs of aging by adding volume to smooth laugh lines with Juvederm Velour XC. For important safety information and to find a licensed specialist, visit juvederm.com. That's JUVEDERM.com. Not for people with severe allergic reactions, allergies to lidocaine, or the proteins used in Juvederm. Common side effects include injection site, redness, swelling, pain, tenderness, firmness, lumps, bumps, bruising, discoloration, or itching. There's a risk of unintentional injection into a blood vessel, which can cause vision abnormalities, blindness, stroke, temporary scabs, or scarring. Talk to a licensed specialist to find out if it's right for you.
This special story is presented by Hempst and Acast Creative.
Okay, I've been waiting for this time of year for it feels like years. I feel like it was such a long, dreary winter. And now here we are, spring-ish,
depending on where you live.
Spring-ish, yeah, okay. There's still like a chill. But listen, I love to sort of set the stage. When it's spring, I like to clear my closet. I like to spring clean. I like to get some new clothes. And of course, I like to kind of set the stage with fragrance.
Oh, absolutely. Since we started working with Hempst, I've been trying all the varieties. I feel like now is the time for like the citrus. Let's bring in.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So Hempst has their Beauty Actives line. You guys have been hearing us talk about that kind of all winter as it's keeping us moisturized. But they have 4 variations in the Beauty Actives line. And right now the Hempst Citrus Blossom Body Moisturizer is the thing to have. It has brightening vitamin C as well. They also have Ocean Breeze Moisturizer with hyaluronic acid if oceanic fragrances are more your thing. But personally, I feel like citrus is just like a breath of fresh air into your whole, like my body routine, but also my home, if that makes sense.
It's very invigorating. And we know we've done a lot of like interviews about this. It's very energizing.
It is an energizing scent. I kind of need that this time of year. But the cool thing about this whole line of body lotions is they're sort of like face care for your body. So in addition to the scent, I know Jess and I always get very focused on like being moisturized and fragrance. There is the vitamin C, which is brightening, of course. And all the Hempst line has hemp seed oil, which is the unsaturated fatty acids, the linoleic acid, helps your skin retain moisture. But to me, Jess, this kind of reminds me of, you started talking about this back in the fall, the like, don't neglect below the chin kind of moment for body care. Are you still feeling that?
We talk about this a lot. We focus so much on our face, but then as soon as, especially once we start getting into like spring and start getting into like wearing like tanks and bathing suits and stuff in the summer, it's like, wait, what?
I feel like my whole life I've been like, wait, what? Just hiding under a black turtleneck? I don't know. Black turtleneck can hide a lot of things. Let me tell you.
At recording time in my like chilly apartment, I'm wearing a black turtleneck now. And it's like our face is like 1/8 of the skin, but don't neglect the neck and deck, okay?
Oh, you love a neck and deck moment.
Neck and deck, okay? Look for body products that have the same actives that are in your skincare. I don't know why we have this huge blind spot. I'm guilty of it too. But be nice to your body. Treat it the same way as you treat your face. What's wrong with us?
I know. And if you're going to get a vitamin C serum for the antioxidant value and the brightening value on your facial skin, why wouldn't you do the same for your décolletage and the neck and the shoulders and the arms and the body, because it's spring and we're here and we're citrus and we're active and I love it. So the new Hempst Beauty Actives line, they have the Citrus Blossom with vitamin C that we've just been chatting about because Jess and I have been using that one. There's also the Ocean Breeze with hyaluronic acid. So a little extra moisture this time of year to get your skin in shape. They're all available at your favorite beauty retailer. So like your Ulta Beauty, all of that. But if you go to the website, which is hempst.com, that's Hempst with a Z, HEMPZ.com, and use the code FATMASCARA, hello, you're going to get 20% off. You get a discount. Happy spring to you. Discount on your products. So use the code FATMASCARA for 20% off your first order at hempst.com. That offer is valid only on regular price merchandise, just so you know. It's hempst.com, HEMPZ.com, FATMASCARA for 20% off.
Thank you for listening to the story, brought to you in partnership with Hempst and Acast Creative.
Hey everyone, welcome to Fat Mascara. I'm Jess.
I'm Jen. Hi.
Okay, Jen, you did this interview this week. Tell us about who you spoke to.
Yeah, I will. I'm very excited to welcome Krupa Koestline. She's the founder and chief formulator at KKT Consultants, which will tell you what they do, but they basically formulate clean beauty products for many brands. And she's worked as a cosmetic chemist and formulator for various brands over the years, including traditional brands. But she made the switch to formulating cleaner and greener, which she'll tell us about how that all came about. And so I know, like, you've heard Jess and I talk about, I'm not a fan of fear-mongering.
Nope.
Yeah, when it comes to clean beauty, I feel like it gets weaponized sometimes as like, if we're clean, you're toxic. Shots fired. Pew, pew, pew. But my person who is like the voice of reason has always been Krupa. I've interviewed her many times over the years. She's a great resource of mine because she formulates clean, but she talks about it in this way that doesn't make you feel bad if you're not ready to go there. But like, she's willing to really explain why she does what she does. And that's why I thought it would be appropriate to have her on for like, it's a little Earth Month. I mean, every month should be Earth Month, right? But
yeah, but I think this is going to answer a lot of questions that people have, whether they say that or it's in the back of their mind. It's like every brand talks about clean and green, but it's like, now, it's like, what does it mean?
yes. And to your point, I did reach out to the fam and ask them for some of their questions for Clean Cosmetic Chemist. So this is Ask Your Cosmetic Chemist, the clean quote marks edition, which I think should be really educational for everybody. And she's great. So I hope you enjoy it. Let's get into it. Okay, Krupa, hi. Welcome to Fat Mascara. How are you?
I'm good, Jen. Thank you.
This is so fun. I feel like I've interviewed you so many times over the years, and I don't know why I was waiting to bring you on and introduce you to the Fat Mascara family, because I know they have questions for you. In fact, after we learn a little bit about you, I do have some questions from our listeners, so I hope you're ready for that.
I am very ready, and I am so privileged to be here, and I cannot wait to get into it. I know we've done this a lot of times over the years, but I'm ready to do this on air. I think it'll be fun.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to give you even more questions than I usually do. But first, just so people get to know you a little bit more, obviously you're a cosmetic chemist, but what is KKT Consultants? That's your company, right?
Yes, that's my consulting firm.
What do you do?
So we are a product development consulting firm with an in-house formulation lab. So it means that we help brands develop custom formulas and also help them with several aspects of product development, like defining ingredient policies or sourcing and developing new technologies, connecting them with the right contract manufacturers, product positioning, strategizing their portfolio, and a lot of different fun things, anything related to product basically. But we really excel in coming up with innovation and new technologies in our in-house lab.
But what makes you different, I think, is also all clean, quote unquote clean,
Correct.
which we will talk about.
Yes.
But that's your niche, right?
Absolutely. Yes, that's our niche. Whenever we get into our background, I'll tell you how I got into clean.
Tell me your background. Yes. How did you get into clean?
Okay. So it's a very interesting journey. I've had a very interesting journey because originally I went to school for biotechnology and like biology, not necessarily chemistry. And I did not think that cosmetics was the career that I wanted to go after. But while I was pursuing my master's, I got an internship at Estee Lauder in their research and development lab. And that's how my entire career started. But then right after that, I started a position with this large multinational consumer goods company in their cosmetic sector as part of their technical assurance team. And one of my first projects was to switch over from shark-derived squalane to olive squalane, right? And up until then, I had no idea that we were all using products that might have things derived from sharks or who knows what else. And we had no idea.
Yeah. What year was this about? Just so people have an idea when this was still prevalent.
2009.
Okay. So not that long ago.
Yeah, not that long ago. And me being a lifelong vegetarian, growing up with like Ayurveda around me, This was a big eye opener. And I started looking closer to other raw materials that I was using and discovering questionable safety data on some of these materials. And I was just not happy sharing the gratis that I used to get from work with my family anymore. And it just didn't sit well with me. And I decided then that I really wanted to be a part of something that I can be proud of. And at that time, which is now called the clean sector, there was no clean back then, right? It was coined now. But I decided to be a part of the natural and organic cosmetic sector, which was quite big back then.
I have to push you a little on this because I know you can handle it. This is where people get confused because you mentioned I was questioning some of the health data. No one's going to question you don't want to be killing sharks either. That's like an easy one. That's pretty obvious. But as a broader thing, what does clean mean to you before we get into maybe some of those health concerns that people might have about certain ingredients? Like, how do you define it these days? Because it's not regulated, right?
Yeah, it's not regulated. And I get asked this question all the time that, like, how do you define clean? Well, to me, in an ideal world, clean should mean something that is safe for you and safe for the environment now as well as long term. But what happens is most of these ingredients that we work with in cosmetics, there's not enough evidence to prove otherwise, right? So there's no long-term safety data, there's no long-term safety studies, especially safety in use studies, as well as ecotoxicity studies done to determine safety of some of these materials. So to me, I think an easier approach to clean is being transparent and coming out clean. Just letting people know what you are all about as a brand and putting it all out there. Like, here's why we use certain things and here's why we don't.
And if there's none of this long-term data, is that because companies don't want to pay for it, or more that these are new ingredients that just haven't been around long enough to figure these things out?
There's multitude of things. There's all of those things too that you mentioned, right? They're expensive tests. They are not a requirement, so people don't usually want to do them. But at the same time, there's no test methods even approved. So like, there's no one test that like somebody has evaluated and said, okay, you know what, if you perform this test, it'll mean that you won't have any long-term issue. Especially now that we're like moving away from animal testing. It's so hard to approve a test method that does not use animals and human trials that will make sure that some of these chemicals are going to be fine long term. And same with ecotoxicity. Like, it's very hard to come up with, and nobody has come up with that one test method that'll tell us, okay, this is biodegradable for sure, or this is not ecotoxic.
And ecotoxicity, just so people know what that means bad for the environment. That's not the health human concern side of it is one thing. And then that ecotoxicity is like, will this harm the environment in the long term? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. And environment can be anything. Environment can be reefs, can be aquatic life, can be the soil. Ecotoxicity can mean like everything around us in general, right? But yeah, it's very hard to test for all of those things.
So if it's hard and there's not one test, if you're a layperson and you hear that all the scientists were reviewing data over in Europe and decided to add this new particular ingredient to their list of banned ingredients, perhaps it's a fragrance allergen. I don't know. Or it has some endocrine disrupting qualities, but we're not sure. So at an abundance of caution, let's take it off. If you're a consumer and you hear that happened in Europe and you see that there's products that still have it here in the US, what are you to think?
So yes, I think that it is very easy to conclude that maybe something was banned in the EU, it's still here, so things are not safe. You have to understand that the regulatory framework of EU and the US is very different. And when EU bans something out of abundance of caution, the US might not follow suit because the US in most times takes a risk-based approach, right? So even though we don't outright ban anything, the government or the FDA puts definite percentages or concentration levels on things that have serious health impacts. So I think if you are somebody who agrees with what EU is doing, and you are an individual who doesn't want to expose your family to something that could be questionable, yes, I understand. I think you should follow EU standards, but it's not that straightforward in the US.
But what about you? You said, "Oh, I got free products and I didn't want to give them to my family because I was worried." What were you worried about? Like, what kinds of ingredients started you on this path towards moving towards clean formulation?
There were a lot of different things. Like back then, there were formaldehyde releasing preservation systems. So there was silica, but the silica is fine. But silicon dioxide, especially when you're working with it, like in a lab or in the manufacturing environment, there are certain precautions that you need to take while working with it. And if you know me, you'll know that I don't like that. Like, that's not me. I don't understand why we need to work with things that we shouldn't be working with.
So if the chemists themselves are wearing like a full ventilation suit to formulate.
Exactly, right? Like,
okay.
Pregnant women are not allowed to go anywhere near the facility when they're manufacturing certain things. I mean, come on.
Those are going to be on your personal no-no list.
Exactly. Like, I don't understand why, right? Like, why? Especially because if there's an alternate way to do things, why not? And maybe this is because I come from a third world country that I don't understand the importance of having that just right consistency in a moisturizer that I need to use a microplastic for or something,
Yeah. You're like, I can do this a better way.
Yeah.
So now after, some of those ingredients, there are still products that release formaldehyde that we don't know about because they might get combined with something else, and that happens, but some of that's changed. But now here we are where even retailers have their own no-no lists. Some brands have a different no-no list. The EU has its banned ingredient list. How do you select which ingredients to use or not to use based on your clients' requests, based on some in-house KKT no-no list? How do you decide?
We don't have an in-house no-no list, thankfully.
Okay.
But what happens? So we have a very different approach to formulation. And what we do is, before we take on a new client, we have a meeting with them and we really try to understand what their motivations are behind saying no to certain ingredients. So we help them really understand, like, okay, we know what the data says. You know what you want to be as a brand and what you want to stand for. And let's together come up with a restricted substance list that makes sense for you and what you're trying to convey. So instead of like having brands just fit into a no-no list, like, oh, we want to fit into the Sephora no-no list or the Credo no-no list, right? We really push our brands to understand why. Like, why? Why are you avoiding silicones? Do you even know why? And does it even make sense for you to avoid silicones? What is more important to you? Is environmental toxicity important, or is animal testing important, or is like, what's important? And then based on that conversation, we help them understand what to avoid and what they can be okay with.
I mean, that's super smart. And in a perfect world, that's amazing. But I'm sure you recognize that lots of people want to sell their products in certain retailers. And they're like, I've heard this from founders off the record. They're like, yeah, I have no problem with silicone, but like so-and-so retailer doesn't allow it, so I'm taking it out. And then nobody ever takes the time to educate the consumer as to why that isn't. And then it perpetuates this weird cycle of people thinking things are demonized, certain ingredients, when maybe not health concerns, maybe there's an environmental concern, but they never get to figure out why. Does that ever concern you, how much power the retailers have over the ingredient lists these days?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it should be that way. For sure, I think that brands should be the one deciding what they want to use and what they don't want to use, I understand the retailer side of things too, where they want to it's very helpful for a consumer. Like, I feel for the consumer who doesn't know to read the ingredient lists all day long and check and double check and triple check to make sure that they are not buying anything.
Yeah, Krupa, we don't have time. We want you to do that for us.
Right. And so like just going to a retailer, that they've vetted everything and that it makes it very easy. So I understand why, like what the motivations of those RSLs are for retailers. But at the same time, yes, it does restrict brands. But then that is the whole, like that's where we need more education, and that's where we need more collaboration, and that's where we need more dialogue on like, okay, what makes sense here? And I've had that before. I have had that before
with clients.
With clients and retailers, you know, where like I've seen retailers collaborate with brands and kind of meet in the middle because what we were trying to say made sense, you know? So it's not impossible. I think that it's an opportunity for a dialogue.
Are those lists always changing? Have you found that like a retailer or brand, I feel like sometimes I never check up afterwards after I see like, oh, here's their no list or their banned list. Will certain brands, once they're educated, maybe change their mind on some of those ingredients? Or would certain products or retailers, based on having a conversation like that with you?
Yes, absolutely. The RSLs, which no lists, they are constantly changing, constantly evolving because the data is evolving, the science is evolving.
Is there an example? I know I don't want to get into every specific, but of an ingredient that was like 5 years ago on every RSL, restricted use. I just call them no list.
Yes.
And now it's like, oh, it's maybe not as bad as everybody thought it was. I don't know. Are there any ingredients like that you can think of?
That used to be on lists and they are not anymore?
Or does it go the other way? Like they weren't on a list and now they're on a list?
I don't know. I feel like there are quite a few categories like that. I remember a few years ago, Credo used to ban ethoxylates completely. And then now, because after I think realizing that it's so very hard for brands and for everybody to keep track of ethoxylated ingredients because they pop up everywhere. There's new ingredients all the time, and suppliers are not going to be upfront with the information that you have to like dig and dig and dig and dig for days to even come close to finding out, okay, is this an ethoxylated ingredient or not? They've kind of backed up a little, backed away a little bit from completely banning ethoxylates, and they have restrictions on the 1,4-dioxane levels and ethylene oxide levels and testing requirements and things like that in order to make sure that they support brands in formulating good products.
And that particular ingredient, like that's not something that would show up on an ingredient label. It's used to process particular ingredients, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you're talking about. So even if your ingredient label doesn't show that particular chemical name, you would have to go like back in MSDS sheets and whatever and trace down to the supplier to find out when they were I don't know, give me an example. They were extracting this fragrance and they had to put this solvent in. I don't know. How's it work? Like, how would that end up in an ingredient without realizing?
So ethoxylated ingredients is basically anything that uses ethylene oxide, right, in processing. So ethylene oxide is carcinogen. And because of that processing, also what happens is there's a residual 1,4-dioxane level that you don't want to be exposed to. So the reason why ethoxylates get the bad rep is because of the residuals, the residual EO and the residual 1,4-dioxane.
Trace from when it was processed,
exactly.
Not because a company like wanted to put it in.
No, trace levels, like parts per million, parts per billion, like very, very, very small level. But continuous exposure to these, even if it's parts per billion, can lead to something more in the future. But at the same time, if you look at like the chemistry of ethoxylates were originally designed as the milder version of sulfates, like milder version of like detergents. So most ethoxylated surfactants were the answer to the harsher detergents that we don't use anymore. So to be able to for me to formulate a really amazing clean shampoo and conditioner without any ethoxylates is it's impossible right now because there's no other alternatives.
So it's almost like I'll go back to the traditional surfactants people didn't want because then I'll win on the ethoxylate argument, but I lose on the surfactant argument.
Exactly.
And so you're constantly with your clients and with retailers making these adjustments to the way you formulate, it sounds like.
Yeah.
I know, but you could see why a consumer wishes just give me the list and be done with it. But science doesn't work doesn't work like that, does it?
No. But I mean, come on. I think even RSL, even the no lists nowadays are so complicated to follow. I don't know how a consumer, how are they okay with just, like, oh yeah, here, avoid all of these 15 categories of ingredients. And you're like, wait, I'm sure it's hard.
I don't know either. I'm so horrible. I'm just like, I don't know. I'll just not care about it at all, because the minute you start to care, then your brain explodes because, well, I'll take this, but then I'm going to go outside and stand behind a bus with like toxic fumes spewing on my face. I had all this clean makeup on, but like the bus just backfired on my face and it ruined everything. So like, why do you know what? You can see why people get to that point where they're like, I give up.
Yes, no, I totally understand. But Jen, what I've noticed in most consumers, even my friends and everybody, is like, they're fine. They're okay. They don't really care, like whatever. They try to shop at like a Credo and try to shop at Beauty Heroes. They're not going to make a thing out of it until they get pregnant and they have a baby. And then they're like, wait, no.
Or a particular health concern. They've been diagnosed with something and all of a sudden they start rethinking everything they've done their whole life, even if, say they got an endocrine related cancer that had it might have had to do with cosmetics, but maybe had nothing to do. You question everything because we like to think there's a reason, right? Like for some of the bad things that happen.
Yes, absolutely right.
The thing where I do actually really have a lot of concerns is, of course, environmental. And I know a lot of that has to do with packaging. But a reason I do try and talk to people like you and seek out some clean products is because I think they tend to be better for the environment. But I don't know if I'm right about that. Do beauty products that are considered clean tend to be better for the environment? Because some brands do it more based on human health concerns. And for someone like me who's worried about environmental health concerns, if I shop at a Credo or clean at Sephora, am I better for the environment?
That's a great question, Jen. Of course. It's a fantastic question.
It's a complicated one.
It's a very complicated one. Let's see. Compared to a product that you might get in, like, let's say, Walmart or wherever else, a drugstore versus Credo, I think, you're going to find something that's better for the environment at Credo. But then again, doesn't not harm the environment at all? No, that's not true. Is all clean beauty great for the environment? No, that's not true. There's this debate right now where people are saying, wait, we've been going crazy for organic, right? There's like organic agriculture. But if you really look into organic agriculture, it's not good for the environment. Certified organic is not good for the environment because you use more water, you use more resources, you use more land, you get less yield. You get all of those things for this one organic almond oil or whatever oil, right? And so this whole thing of clean beauty, it's so much more complicated. Like it has there's so many ingredients that have issues with environmental persistence and toxicity and and long-term toxicity. And even like there's ingredients that brands sell as biodegradable, when biodegradable can mean biodegradable in 2 years or biodegradable in 10 years or biodegradable only in a certain pH range, or it can mean whatever. And do all of these retailers keep a tab on those? No, they can't. They can't possibly.
It's like you have to pick your concern. Like if I'm like, no, because if I'm like, water preservation is the most important to me, maybe based on where I live or whatever, like then you might not want an organic farm. But if, heavy metals in soil is the concern that I'm most concerned about, then yes, I do want organic. Like there's no generic scorecard, is there?
Unfortunately not.
Okay, you need to work on that. I mean, I don't know what data model that would be to like they do your carbon footprint score, which it takes into account shipping and the weight of the products, but then maybe it didn't take into account the fertilizers used in whatever botanical.
Yeah.
So like, I get it.
Hi, this is Paige DeSorbo from Giggly Squad. How would you like to look 5 years younger? In a clinical study, people that had volume added with Juvederm, Voluma XC in the cheeks perceived themselves as looking 5 years younger at 6 months after treatment. Look younger, feel like you, add volume for lift and contour in the cheeks with Juvederm, Voluma XC, and reverse signs of aging by adding volume to smooth laugh lines with Juvederm Velour XC. For important safety information and to find a licensed specialist, visit juvederm.com. That's JUVEDERM.com. Not for people with severe allergic reactions, allergies to lidocaine, or the proteins used in Juvederm. Common side effects include injection site, redness, swelling, pain, tenderness, firmness, lumps, bumps, bruising, discoloration, or itching. There's a risk of unintentional injection into a blood vessel, which can cause vision abnormalities, blindness, stroke, temporary scabs, or scarring. Talk to a licensed specialist to find out if it's right for you.
So on Fat Mascara, we always talk about sunscreen, but let's be honest, sometimes it could feel a little bit like kind of like taking your medicine. Tizo is so different. It's almost like applying a primer.
It feels like a primer, you're right. And this sunscreen is amazing. It is 100% a mineral sunscreen, which is so good because it works immediately when you put it on. You don't have to put it on 15 minutes before you go in the sun like you do with chemical sunscreens. Tizo stands for titanium dioxide and zinc oxide. These are the minerals and sunscreens that are the best choice for your skin, your body, even the environment. And you're going to look forward to putting it on. Like Jess said, it's sort of a primer. I would say it's like, first of all, it blends into any skin tone. It has like a peachy beige color to it, the one that I use particularly, but it gives a nice slip and a little bit of a blurring quality. So you're putting on your sunscreen, you know you're going to be protecting yourself from all those signs of aging, but you're also perfecting your skin in the process, which is so nice. Also, Tizo products are cruelty-free, reef-safer, free of parabens, gluten, fragrances, dye, phthalates. If that's important to you, Tizo is the sunscreen you're going to want to get, not just for summer, right now. Right now, you should be wearing sunscreen.
Go to TizoSkin.com and use the code FATMASCARA15 at checkout for 15% off your entire order. That's TizoSkin.com, Tizo skin.com, and use the code FATMASCARA15 for 15% off your entire order.
It is that day, hair wash day. Honestly, sometimes when it's hair wash day, I'm just like, I don't have the time. I don't have the energy. I just want to go to bed. I don't want to wash my hair. It's a whole to-do. Guess what? You kind of don't have to. This is what I do. I use Living Proof. Their dry shampoos are amazing. When I need just a few more days out of my hair, they actually clean your hair without water. Seriously, it's totally different than any other type of dry shampoo.
Living Proof is powered by MIT Science. Yes, it's hair care powered by MIT Science. And with Living Proof, you have two options to choose from. With the dry shampoo, they have their original dry shampoo formula, and that just leaves a little bit of texture and hold to your hair. Or you can go with their advanced clean dry shampoo, and that works like a shampoo and a leave-in conditioner together. And I actually prefer that. It leaves your hair really soft, shiny, and smooth, but both are great. Now, both take care of your scalp, and unlike other dry shampoos, there's no white residue behind after you use it. You apply it to your roots, but then you have to wait 30 seconds and then kind of tousle your hair after for that fresh blowout feeling. Gives you nice, clean, healthy, shiny hair. And of course, it's PETA certified and cruelty-free, color safe, and safe for chemically treated hair.
Visit livingproof.com/fatmascara and use the code FATMASCARA to get a free travel size dry shampoo with your purchase of $45 or more. That's livingproof.com/fatmascara. Use the code FATMASCARA to get a free travel size dry shampoo. Maybe you're going away on a vacation. You don't have to pack shampoo. Just pack this. You'll get a free trial size dry shampoo with your purchase of $45 or more. Visit livingproof.com/fatmascara. Again, the code is FATMASCARA. How about this? Also important to me and you, I know, is animal welfare.
Yes.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Just in general, are most of the clean formulas, can we consider those to be more animal friendly than traditional cosmetics?
Most clean brands right now not just clean, actually, any brands that sell in the US, they don't test on animals. Most brands have phased out of animal testing completely.
Okay, so this is my savvy listeners always are pointing out to me that they, before China changed its regulations, were like, listen, I know that you are animal safe. However, I know your parent company also sells in China where animal testing was required on all cosmetics for a while. What's going on there now? Like if you see a brand that's sold in China and also sold in the US, and you're very adamant about wanting to be, pay attention to animal welfare, Can you feel okay about buying it? What's the state of regulations these days?
No, China lifted its ban on animal testing, making all general cosmetics exempt from animal testing, imported as well as domestically made, all cosmetics. But they have these two categories of cosmetics called general cosmetics and special cosmetics, right? So general cosmetics are basically all like shampoo, conditioner, all these like normal cosmetics. But then special cosmetics are cosmetics that have a very specific claim, like a dandruff shampoo or an eczema balm, or, you know, kind of like the same way, or sunscreen.
An OTC drug
exactly.
claim. Okay, the US equivalent.
Those are special cosmetics, and those are not exempt from animal testing yet.
Okay, so here's where it gets tricky. Say this brand that you love sells their foundation with SPF in China. That means that makeup had to be tested on an animal, right? Because it has a sunscreen claim.
Yes, absolutely. But so even animal testing is not straightforward, because nothing is straightforward, right? So
of course,
even animal testing is not straightforward. Like, there are so many other nuances. Like, for example, we all know that EU banned animal testing. But then are you familiar with REACH? Like, there's a unit where it's called REACH. It's an acronym for registration of new materials, like new chemicals. So whenever you have a newer chemical or new material, you send it to REACH for approval. Well, REACH, one of the things that they do is animal testing to approve the new chemical.
Because this is something that's never before been used in cosmetics, so we kind of have to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
So like, it's a new retinol alternative that we just invented.
Yeah.
And maybe it's even a cleaner version of a particular ingredient, that bakuchiol.
Yeah.
That had to be tested on an animal to even get on the cosmetics list. And that would be a one-time testing, right?
It's a one-time testing.
And that's for the raw material, not every finished product made with it.
Yes. So it's only for the raw material.
I'm not trying to justify. I'm just trying to make sure people understand. Yeah.
No, you're absolutely. And it only happens in certain cases. But the point is that it could be one of the requirements. Like, REACH can determine whether animal testing is required or not. But it's still part of their protocol, is what I'm saying. So it's contradictory. And then get this, Jen, because you brought up animal testing. This is one of my things that I'm like, it's my pet peeves right now. The sexual lubricants.
Mm-hmm.
All sexual lubricants in the United States have to undergo animal testing in the United States.
And is that because of how they are regulated? Are they regulated as medical
devices?
Okay.
Yeah. So no matter what the lube, right? Even if it's just like coconut oil or like whatever, if you're calling it a sexual lube and selling it as sexual lube, that means it's a medical device, and you have to do testing on animals.
Well, now, don't some brands get around this? I've talked to some of these companies that play, and they call it a personal lubricant or a moisturizer, so as not to imply that it would be used in the vagina, just on the vulva or whatever, which is a joke, because let's be honest, if you're putting it on your vulva, it's going to get inside of your body at some point.
Exactly.
But that's their way around that, I imagine.
Yeah, that's their way around it until FDA comes back and then fines them for whatever, right? Because it's not right to sell a love massage oil, or I don't know, whatever they call it, right? And then we all know it's a sexual lubricant.
If they want to continue to sell it, they would then have to do animal testing as if it were a vaccine or a drug or something like that.
Exactly.
Okay, so we need to petition the FDA to change that.
Yes,
Got
please.
It. All right, we're on it.
Okay.
We're mobilized. The Fat Mascara fam is, because you can find, I guess you as a chemist could look at the ingredients in a particular lubricant and say, none of these are things that we should have concerns about that require an animal to be harmed in order to test them. I mean, like you said, coconut oil or whatever.
Yeah, and I think there should be more funding and more research into finding alternate methods for these tests. Like, we have evolved so much from a tissue culture, or like there's ridiculous technologies available now. So why can't we move away from animal testing for things like that?
Like, grow some fake skin in the lab and put it on that instead of on this mouse. I get it. I would like to move into the portion of the interview where I actually asked some listeners to tell me their questions for you. So I hope you don't mind. I do have a couple specific questions. One that comes up all the time actually on this show and people are just curious about is fragrance in skincare. I've even talked to founders who are like, I like fragrance in skincare, but the internet does not. So I don't put fragrances in. So this was the question. Why do some companies choose to, this is a loaded question, heavily fragranced products for the face? I guess this particular listener does not like fragrance in their skincare, but it is a good question. Why would you put fragrance in skincare, or why wouldn't you?
Yeah, so the simple answer is that when you make moisturizer, let's say I'm making a moisturizer. If the moisturizer has a particular smell, like a base note, I have to find a way to cover up that smell. A lot of times, that's when fragrances...
Explain the smell to me. What smell are we talking about? It came out of your lab before you dealt with any masking fragrances. What might it smell like?
It can smell like detergent sometimes. It can smell like plastic. It can smell like yogurt, depending on what it is.
And these are even clean formulas that you yourself worked on, know everything that's in them, and it has this weird plasticky smell.
Yes, absolutely.
And consumer perception would be like, ew.
Exactly. So I'm pretty sure people would not put something. People would not use something that smells like sour cream or yogurt on their face every day, right? So I have to put a fragrance in. Yeah, I wouldn't heavily fragrance it, but I would put enough fragrance to cover up that smell.
Yeah. And so that gets into the difference of like a masking fragrance or neutralizing fragrance rather than just like, oh, it smelled completely neutral. And then we just decided to put a whole dose of perfume, which does happen as well. Like, a lot of those French pharmacy brands have a heritage of like heavily fragranced skincare, I think. I don't mind it, but I know people do. Okay. Speaking of smell, Candace, I think was the listener on this one. She asked why some products smell like, quote, old plastic pool toys. Thank you, Candace, for the visual or the scent visual. What is she talking? What does that smell? I think I know what she means.
Yes, the fantastic question by Candace, must say. But basically, a lot of times, most of these things, like most of these moisturizers or serums or gels or whatever, are made from polymers. Polymers is the same as like the plastic is a polymer, right? So I'm not very surprised to hear that products, especially products that don't have that added fragrance, the masking fragrance or the neutralizing fragrance, then will end up smelling like pool toys because of the polymers.
Okay. So if you're one of these people that's like, I don't want fragrance because maybe I have an allergy or I don't even know what allergy I have, I just don't want it, you might have to deal with plastic pool toys.
Yeah, unfortunately so.
Okay, another listener, Anya, said she wants to talk about vitamin C. People are obsessed with vitamin C these days. She wanted to know, what is your favorite form of vitamin C? And can you ever have too much vitamin C in a serum?
So my current favorite form of vitamin C is the 3-O-ethyl ascorbic acid, which is an etherified derivative of ascorbic acid, which means it has an ethyl group bound to the ascorbic acid, which makes it more stable. It also makes it soluble in oil and water both. So I love it because I can use it in very many different ways. I normally prefer personally to a concentration of around 5%, I think is enough. Like that's more than you need. But people have used up to 30%. Anything more than 30% is not recommended because it can cause more harm than good. So I think between 20 to 30% if you really want a whole bunch of vitamin C.
That particular form that you said, though, you can't seek that out on an IL. Like it's not listed that way. I wouldn't know that it was that ester, right? Or does it have a special name on the ingredient label?
It is usually listed as ethyl ascorbic acid or even...
It does have that, yeah.
Or even 3-O ethyl ascorbic acid most of the times on the ingredient list.
Okay, because I think what you see most often is probably ascorbic acid just by itself, right?
Yes.
And that means that might not be as stabilized as the form that you are currently loving.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. Oh, sorry, Anya, follow-up. Can you recommend what do you use a vitamin C? What do you use?
I do use a vitamin C. I'm using, which one am I using right now? Eliza Skin. They have a vitamin C.
I've heard about.
That's the one I'm using right now.
I also want to ask you about some of your other personal favorites. And I promise this doesn't mean we know you work with lots of clients. So I'm just going to tell all your clients and potential clients out there, this doesn't mean she doesn't use your product, but I do want to know some favorites of your beauty products and what you actually use. What do you like wash your face with these days? And by the way, you do mostly skincare formulation, correct?
I do skincare. We're also getting a lot into sexual wellness and hair care and baby care, body care, a lot of those categories as well. But skincare is my favorite. I love skincare.
So what cleansers do you like?
So I am a fan of cleansing balms. I don't like to expose my skin to surfactants. So I don't use gel cleansers or any of those. I will use a cream cleanser, like a really creamy cleanser, or which doesn't really suds, right? Those kinds of cleansers. And then cleansing balms. I love cleansing balms. Right now I'm using the one by Glow Recipe. It smells delicious. I think it's like a tropical like smell and I love it. That's the one I'm using right now.
Well, now I have to ask, you don't use surfactants. Is that because of the trace contamination we talked about or because your skin type, you don't like the drying or like why do you personally not use them?
I have very dry skin, which is why I don't use surfactant-based products. It has nothing to do with trace amounts of anything. It's just my skin doesn't like the drying surfactants.
I totally get it. What about for hair care? What are some hair care products that you use?
For hair care is tricky because it depends on how I'm going to wear my hair is what I'll use. So
Of course.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Let's see. I'm using Inner Sense. I'm using a few like DS Labs products. I'm using Ranavat.
What's DS Labs? Oh, Ranavat I know, but what's DS Labs?
That's a dermatologist brand, and we are developing some new products for them. So we're just testing them out. But it's more like a clinical hair care brand. I use a lot of hair oils. I like to do like hair oiling before I wash.
What's your oil of choice?
I do coconut oil. That's like forever.
It's classic.
Great. So I use like the Kopari coconut oil the best because it's like not liquid. So it's very easy to put on.
Less mess with the oiling, yes.
Exactly. But yeah, that's what I do.
What about any other moisturizers or skincare? You mentioned you have dry skin.
Mm-hmm.
What do you like to put on?
So I like to use an oil-based moisturizer, like a balm in the shower. So this I've done this like forever now. But what I do is I wash my face with a cleansing balm, right? And then when I get in the shower, I'll put, like after I'm done with everything, I'm like almost ready to get out, I'll put a balm on my face and then kind of just wipe off the rest with a towel when I get out. And I use Blue Cocoon by May Lindstrom all the time because I love Blue Tansy. It's my like favorite product and favorite ingredient, and I love it. So that's the one I use. And then
why do you love Blue Tansy so much?
Why?
Yeah, what can Blue Tansy do for me? I don't do Blue Tansy.
Blue Tansy is amazing, and it is a chamomile, so it's very relaxing, and I think I find it very intoxicating, the smell. I just love it.
So it's part experiential and then skin benefit wise, I imagine. Does it have skin benefits as well?
It does have skin benefits too, yes. It has a bunch of really great terpenes. It has a lot of like relaxing characteristics. Like it has great antioxidants as well, but it helps you calm down and relax. So kind of like a neuro ingredient, right? It also helps kind of the aromatherapy part, especially because I apply it in the hot shower. So then my whole shower smells like it. So I love it.
That's lovely. If you're a scent person, are you also like a perfume or candle person?
No.
Do you have any personal favorite? No, not on that. Okay.
I'm not a perfume.
And what about makeup?
Or candle person? Like I feel like I used to be. I used to love perfumes and candles and everything, but then I had a little one and then he has eczema and he has like dermatitis which flares up. So then
just for safety of like, I'm not, because sometimes you don't know what's in a particular fragrance and it could set someone's skin condition off. I get that.
Exactly.
And lastly, before we do the Fat Mascara 5, which I'm not going to let you out of here without, that's our speed round. Any color cosmetics that you're into, any mascara that you particularly love that you cannot live without?
I'm liking the Exa mascara a lot. Exa by Credo. Did I pronounce it wrong?
No, I don't know.
It's great. It stays on all day and Stays on after the gym. I like it. I also want to make a special mention to this product that I've been using like crazy. Like I've finished 3 bottles now. It's Peach and Lily's Retinol for All. I don't know if anybody is into retinol or have tried retinol before, but I was somebody who had, like, I had issues with retinol. Like I would try it and then because I have dry skin, it would just mess it up, right? This particular product, like retinol, is my new thing for sure. And my skin is just absolutely fantastic. No issues with dryness, no issues with sensitivity, like nothing. And I use it every day, like every single night. It's perfect.
Krupa, did you formulate it?
Jen, we're on a podcast here, but call me later.
Okay. I was just like, well, it's okay if you didn't or did, but I'm like, obviously, if you had made it yourself, you would know how to make it, exactly for your own skin. She has proprietary client knowledge that we cannot push her on. That's totally fine. I understand. But Peach and Lily Retinol for All, good even for sensitive and dry skin. That's good to know.
Yeah, I mean, it works really well for me. So if you guys have any like dry skin and you've always had issues with retinol, then you should give this a try. It's a good one.
Okay. You might have already answered this, but I'm going to move into our little Fat Mascara 5 easy round of questions special for you. But like, what's the most underrated skincare ingredient to formulate with? Like one that you love, but you're like, why doesn't it get more love?
Astaxanthin. I mean, there's a whole list, but I think astaxanthin is one.
Why? Tell us. Why do we need astaxanthin in our life?
So astaxanthin is this algae extract, right? It has a ridiculously amazing antioxidant benefits. There's also studies that they've done for sun protection using astaxanthin. I was introduced to it by a brand founder, like I think probably like 7 years ago. And I've been using it ever since in like any which way I can find. Like any time I get a chance, I'll use it because it is the best antioxidant. It knocks out like tocopherol and all of those things out of the park. It's like so perfect. And you don't even need much. Like a tiny amount goes a long way. And it has a beautiful peachy color. It's great. I love that ingredient.
Amazing. Okay. You heard it here first. What's overrated? Like that everybody seems to want and you're like, why? For skincare ingredient.
People are going to get pissed off about this answer, but whatever. I think vitamin C is a little bit overrated.
You saw that was like one of the first questions people had for you is about vitamin C. Why
Yes.
Why is it overrated?
Because there's other options. Like you don't only have vitamin C that's gonna like this do-it-all ingredient that all you need is vitamin C. Like no, like there's other options, you know?
Okay, but vitamin C is both an antioxidant, like you said, right? But it's also this, in certain forms, a brightener.
Yeah.
Are you saying there's better ingredients for each of those things separately? What do you like for a brightening ingredient? Niacinamide
is fantastic. And it's not unstable. Like vitamin C is unstable. Like who knows if your bottle is going to even do the same thing in 2 months.
I'm telling you, this is a naming thing. Vitamin C seems easy to understand. We all took like a little Flintstone vitamin when we were little. It makes sense to people. You try and sell them on astaxanthin and niacinamide when vitamin you know what I mean? Like in a marketing point of view, it's easy to Google. We need to do a rebrand on these other 2 ingredients. We could call it vitamin N. If they had just called, right, like vitamin B is panthenol, right? Same thing. Mm-hmm. Should we start calling niacinamide vitamin N or something? Should we like do a rebrand?
Yeah, it's B3 actually. Niacinamide is a vitamin.
Oh, it is a B vitamin.
It's B3, yeah.
So there is science behind
it's B3.
I'm like, panthenol, they just call it vitamin B, but so it is a vitamin B type of vitamin B. Okay, fine. My plan's not going to work, but okay. Vitamin C, overrated. All right, so I know you're vegetarian. I'm a weekday vegetarian. My stepson's vegetarian. What is the best vegetarian dinner dish?
I love to cook.
I know. This is why I'm asking you.
And one of my favorites right now that I keep going back to is kimchi ramen. I love kimchi ramen. It is the best and so easy to make and perfect and fantastic for a vegetarian dinner dish.
Is miso the base of your soup?
No. So basically you like saute kimchi, like saute it really good so that all the vinegar goes out. And then you add your broth. So your broth is like kimchi. You don't need miso. And then you add like a little bit of gochujang and then...
So when you're adding your broth, is it just water to the sauteed kimchi or you'll use a vegetable broth?
Bouillon.
Like better than
Yeah, better than
whatever
bouillon.
vegetable bouillon.
Mhm.
But the kimchi gives it the flavor.
The kimchi gives it the flavor. And so delicious.
And a cabbage kimchi, I'm imagining.
Yeah.
Cabbage, like
Yeah.
all right, I'm going to try that. I'm
Yeah.
going to try that.
But you have to cook the kimchi really well.
Yes, I do like sour, but I will cook it well. I will try that tonight. Okay, favorite indulgent snack?
Yeah, I had to give this a little bit of thought. But I think that barbecue chips are the death of me. I can't stop eating barbecue chips. It's horrible.
Is there a particular brand?
All brands are fine. As long as they're barbecue chips, I'll eat them.
Got it. Okay, and last question. How do you unwind at the end of the day?
Usually with like one really amazing glass of wine.
Okay, and what is amazing to you? Is there a particular grape, a particular varietal?
Not really. No, I'll have anything.
Just
red
the good stuff.
is fine. No,
Red wine.
I'm not a snob.
Okay.
Not a wine snob. I'll have anything.
I don't know. You just gave me your kimchi broth recipe. So I was like, maybe she's like, I need this burgundy aged 30 years or whatever it is. I don't know.
No.
Okay,
not
good
at
glass of red wine, and then you can unwind and get your beauty sleep. I love that. Sounds like me too. Krupa, this was so informative. I'm sure our listeners are going to love this episode. Thank you so much for coming on Fat Mascara.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
We hope you enjoyed the show.
It's your reviews and feedback that help us make the podcast even better. Head over to iTunes to rate and review us, or email your thoughts to info@fatmascara.com.
We also want to answer your beauty questions and hear what products you love. To share a Razor One product review or to ask a beauty question, email us at info@fatmascara.
If you send it as a voice memo file, we can even share your voice on the podcast. You can also do that by leaving us a voice message. Our phone number in the United States is 646-481-8182.
Thanks so much for listening.